If so, I'll take a motion.
Yeah, I think-
Question.
Russ?
On page 2, first line on town planner update. I'm just questioning where it says C. Bouchard and the board.
Oh.
I think we can just, it sounds like he's not on the board when you put it that way, I think the whole board discussed it.
Maybe not.
Huh.
I
It's
wasn't
still
there.
with us, right?
Remember that?
Trying to make me feel more important,
And I had one other thing. Under the motion to approve the A&R for 100 Breakneck Road, it says seconded by C. Blanchard, but I think it was C. Bouchard.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. The similarity of those names is going to continue to
Yes.
create a problem.
Yes.
Okay, so motion then to accept with those amendments?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed, nobody, and one abstention?
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Very good. So the next item is to continue work on the special use district zoning revisions. And it's that, Jean?
So in your packet this evening, you have an updated zoning bylaw, and it's really based on the changes that we discussed at the last meeting. So if you want, I can just go through each one of these. So I think the top one in your packet is chapter 14, special use district. And so what I did on this is in section 14.01, the permitted uses, I added the professional and medical offices and laboratories for research and development. I thought those were, that's similar to what we do in, say, the industrial or some of the commercial zones where office uses are the permitted uses, not needing special permit. So they would just be subject to site plan approval. And then in section 14.02, you'll note in the first paragraph, I indicate that the planning board is the SPGA unless otherwise indicated, because it was kind of a mishmash before, and I think it just cleans it up. And I also am proposing to change the hospital and medical treatment building and campground previously was zoning board as special permit granting authority, which is a little unusual. So I don't know if that was just intentional or if it just wasn't thought of the way it was written, that that's what it was actually reflecting. So this way it makes it, excuse me, more clear that the planning board is the special permit granting authority. And I think that you're more familiar with reviewing those things such as stormwater management or utilities and things like that. So it seemed to make sense. And the other special permit uses on the next page are the indoor and outdoor recreational facilities, distillery, and microbrewery. And I just thought of it, we should probably add winery to that. We're leaving out kind of one category. And
Yeah.
like Brimfield has a nice little winery there on the main street now, which is quite nice.
Good.
And then indoor family amusement centers. And the reason I put those in the special permit area is those can potentially have impacts on, not that an office couldn't, but it's a recreational facility could potentially generate more traffic, it could generate more noise, it could potentially generate kind of odd land clearing if it's a zip line facility or something like that. So those seemed to me more appropriately placed in the special use category. And I don't know if anyone has any concerns with those being in the special permit category. I know it's contrary to what the CMRPC recommended, but I respectfully disagree with their recommendations.
I think I agree with that.
So one question I have, so under 1401F, under farm, including agriculture, it includes the sale of produce and has wine and dairy products. Would there
Yes.
be a confusion between a winery and that?
No, this is, so that's a farmer's winery, so if you just
Okay.
add winery, we'll have to create a definition to indicate
Okay.
that it's not a farmer's winery.
Okay.
That it's actually, it could be maybe a standalone facility. So under farm, under the Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 3, there's specific exemptions for farmers' breweries and farmers' wineries.
Okay.
And they have to be produced on the farm using a majority of their own product to create that. So there is a difference, and we'll have to make sure we clarify that in the
Okay.
definitions.
Good.
Excuse me, Jean. I have a question too on 14.01 on D. it says, all those activities through establishment of trails.
That's the,
Why is that in there?
that's the current language that's in our bylaw now. I mean, it is a little odd. I guess you would walk or hike or bike on those trails. So I think in a way it makes sense. I think it's just, but you wouldn't necessarily picnic on an established trail. So we can, and that language, is recited throughout our bylaw in the various districts. I think if we look at every single zoning district that talks about walking, hiking, it adds picnicking through the establishment of trails. So it is odd. I can certainly take a look at that and see if we can recommend a little cleaner language for that.
Yeah, the only odd one is the picnicking.
The picnicking.
The rest of them, I mean, I think the intent was to make sure that, you know, there were designated trails, so that it wasn't just because you have this big district, you just
Right.
ride your bike all over
Right,
and walk wherever you
exactly,
want. You know, I think that was the
exactly.
idea, to
Yeah.
let it know that it was actually, you know,
Right.
creating a trail use.
And maybe it's all of those uses through the establishments of trails with amenities for picnicking or something
Yeah,
like
something like
that.
that.
Just might be a small change to the language.
Whatever, I just wanted to
Yeah.
bring it up for discussion. Thank you, Charlie.
Alright, so if we're good with those. The next one that I have is very similar to what we did in the commercial tourist district. So this is under subparagraph K. So we have a height limitation of 35 feet in most of our districts. As we know from working on the soccer facility that was a dome, the arena, 35 feet is nowhere near high enough for a recreational facility. So rather than just pick an arbitrary number, I mean, I guess the most logical thing would be to ask the fire chief how far we can reach with the ladder truck, which is a pretty significant height now with the new
Right.
truck. So rather than do that, I thought if we kept it consistent with what we do in the commercial tourist district and the village gateway, where you can increase heights by special permit, then you could review it on a case-by-case basis
Right.
to make sure that, and then you can ask for view shed studies and things to make sure there aren't impacts to the surrounding residential area
Good.
there. So that was all I proposed in chapter 14, and now that you see it kind of in a logical order, do you have other suggestions of things that I may add? I know the board's charge, the planning board and the board of selectmen really wanted us to go toward a recreational area. However, I think that we needed to keep some of these other uses that were allowed in planned unit business development, because we don't want a district where nothing happens. So if we can't encourage those recreational type uses, you know, maybe we'll still get an office or a medical building or, you know, a laboratory, some of these uses that really aren't going to impact people, that could bring some decent paying jobs and revenue, tax revenue to the town as well.
Right.
So I tried to keep it a little balanced, but yet encourage a variety of uses.
Yeah. Does everyone agree? I think that seems like a good idea. The only other question, just as you had mentioned before, on this 1401F, where on the agricultural use under 5 acres, you said beer, so should we say, you know, beer as well as wine, or, I mean, if they grow hops and stuff,
Whiskey.
what do they need to grow?
Oh, for the Farmers Brewery, you mean,
Yeah.
under farm? I'll check, this came right out of the state statute the last time we updated it, so I'll check that again.
See if it
I
has
think the
to-
language has been updated to include that, so I will
All right.
check.
Good.
So I'll check the language. That's a good point. And while we're at it, we'll probably want to clean up everywhere else it is in the bylaw at the same time. And then, so that's the end of that. Chapter 15, you'll see I'm just proposing to delete that in its entirety based on our conversations. There's not really a lot of land where that could happen. And then the last part that I'm giving you are the definitions. So I corrected or made the change that I think Mr. Chamberlain raised on the outdoor commercial recreation facility, the last sentence, shall not include, or it had may not include motorsports, go-karts, and other motorized activities. So that was the only change I made on the two of those. And I added a definition from distillery, which actually I got largely from the American Planning Association Planners Dictionary. and added the licensing requirements that I found on the alcohol and tobacco. But I think it's firearms, alcohol, and tobacco, so I need to change that language. I think it's fire, ATF or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So, and then I'm not working. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Didn't realize that. And then I will create a definition for the winery and clean up the others. So that was, the other thing is the table of dimensional requirements. So what I did is I used the GIS and I pulled up all of the parcels. And if you look at, I did give you a copy of the table in your packet. And so in the special use district, you need an acre. That's not inconsistent with our other commercial zones or even our rural residential zones, so I think that's fine. The frontage is 200 feet, which is a bit more than some of our commercial zones, but it's consistent with the historic commercial. And what I did is I looked at all of the parcels within the special use district and looked at it from a standpoint of would it create more development opportunities if that were reduced to 150 feet. And the reality is I don't really think it would, because the land that is carved up was carved up using the 200-foot requirement. So I think it's safe to just leave that as is. There's a couple of large pieces left that have quite a bit of frontage. Excuse me. But the other ones that have already been carved up are carved up at the 200-foot. And with not a lot of room for change, so maybe it's, one person owns this parcel and another person owns this parcel, and it is only 200 feet of frontage. So I would recommend we keep that. I think the most significant change that I would propose is that we have a similar setback as the other commercial districts. So right now we require a 100-foot setback, and I'm proposing we reduce that to 50. And I think that would make a very big difference in that district in terms of development. I mean, if you take a 200-foot by 50-foot strip, that's a lot of land that you're not able to use right now.
Right.
So that is what I would recommend. Absolutely willing to take input, see what you think about that.
And I think along with that is already a setback for the state right away.
Right.
Of the town right away.
Right.
So-
It's huge there too. It really is. So I think it gives you a significant buffer area, significant setback, and, I don't know that everybody needs to be invisible.
No, that's
You
true.
know.
You want
Right.
something attractive.
Right.
On the maximum lot coverage, 30%, is that reasonable, you think? Or?
I think it is. It's, looking at.
The only other thing we
the
have greater is general industrial, but on the other
Right,
hand,
33. I think that is reasonable, because the maximum impervious, actually, we don't specify a maximum impervious, and,
right.
you might want to do that, to have a maximum impervious surface at, I would say 70% as the other commercial ones, districts.
Right.
I'm not sure why that did not have one.
Like, the only thought I had is like with some of these recreational activities where, there might be, a sports bubble or something like that. I just wondered if, 30 is too limiting on
Right.
max coverage.
It could, a facility like that will consume a great deal of land area, so,
Yeah.
I mean, open for input. I think, like you said,
Or could you put 5 next to that and do a special permit?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, you could,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
maybe that'd be-
yeah.
Right.
I like
way
that.
if a special situation came up,
Right.
we could certainly look at it and say, okay,
Sure.
this still can meet the, aesthetics and setbacks and visual stuff and give them more space.
I think that's a
more
good
lot
idea.
coverage. Good.
I just realized I'm not taking minutes, so.
Well, we have,
That's okay.
It's recorded.
All right, so I think that's a good suggestion,
good.
to vary that by special permit,
Yeah.
as with the height.
Good.
Okay. I don't know if you have anything to add, Kevin?
No. No, I think that it's all all common sense moves that are straightforward, and I think it really makes it very clear for what we want to see in the corridor, and it meets addresses some of the problems we have heard about for years from a lot of the property owners in the area, so I think this is all good steps.
Great.
Yeah.
Very good.
You know, the setbacks, you've got a 30 feet and then a 6, but 6 is crossed out.
Oh, okay, thank you, I'll correct that. And then actually under the area, the footnote 4 should be deleted as well, because we're not varying the area. That was for PUVD only. That's all I have on that.
Great, very good, good job, appreciate it.
So I'll make these changes, I'll work on a definition for winery, I'll look at the language for farm, I'll change that picnicking a little bit in the first section, and try to finalize this, and I will give it to you for your next meeting, which actually is July 23rd. Keeping with past practice, I've gone to one meeting for July and one meeting in August. The August 13th meeting is the last Tuesday before I go on vacation. And conservation, it's on our regular week, so I didn't have to worry about conservation meeting. And then July 23rd, that's also on one of our regular meeting nights. It's just later in the month. If, as always, if anything comes up that we need to meet, I'll let you know. We'll post a meeting, or if we get any A&Rs, those could potentially even be done in an afternoon, just with a quorum, with those of you that are available during the day. So that's all I have for you.
Okay, that's it for the update, just that date.
Thank you.
Terrific, thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
next, old and new business. Chris, you have any old business? I'll start on that end. Mike? Sure.
No, the only thing I'd say, so Panera's now open.
Yeah.
Since I live off in New
Haven't been there yet.
Boston, driving by a lot, the parking lot is pretty full. The building is pretty full. I haven't noticed any issues with traffic personally, driving that route multiple times a day. But I will say the parking is tight with the restaurant at full capacity. Yeah. But that's all.
Sue?
No.
No?
nothing.
Jim? Russ?
Old business?
This is old, yep.
Just want to thank the staff and especially the Edwards Gas for a huge improvement there. It's you know, I mean, I criticize them, but also I'll give them credit where credit is due. I mean, it looks so much better now.
Yeah, he's doing
Very
a good
good.
job down there.
Thank you. New business? Chris? No? Mike? New?
I don't think so, no.
No.
Jim? New business? No?
Nope.
Great, okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? And second, all in favor?
Second.
Aye, that's it, great.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
I think Sue did.
Pick one.
Janae won't appreciate that when she goes to type out my
Yeah,
my
I know.
non-existent
I know,
notes
who's what.
tomorrow.
Great, very good. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Good meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Expedition.